Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar. I hope you're having a good day at work. Thank you so much for taking your time off from your busy schedules for joining us today. My name is Siddharth, or just Sid if that's easier, and I work at Manage Engine as an IT security specialist, and I will be your presenter for today's webinar. I'm also joined by my colleague Ram Ganesh, who's a senior product specialist, and he'll be helping answer your questions on the live chat. But before I get started with today's session, I just want to make sure that you're able to view my presentation. That's my shared screen. And just want to make sure you don't have any issues with hearing my audio. So in case you have any difficulties, please let us know right away on the live chat and we try to sort them out. But otherwise, we just take a pause for 30 seconds to a minute. And in case you have any difficulties, let us know on the live chat before we get started with today's webinar. Right, so I hope you have no difficulties with the audio or with viewing my presentation. So let's get started with today's webinar. So the reason we've chosen this particular topic of specifically looking at auditing Active Directory is because in today's security space, threats are not just external, right? And we'll come back to this over the course of the presentation. But one of the reasons we have chosen this particular topic of giving a complete walkthrough of Active Directory auditing is because, well, I've been predominantly dealing with auditing tools such as SIM solutions. And the reason I wanted to host this particular webinar is because often when we think of threats, we think of them to be external, right? Because when we think of an attack, we are prone we are prone to immediately believe or picture a hacker sitting somewhere outside. But the thing is that attacks can very well stem internally from within your organization. And that is the harsh reality, that there are security threats that can stem from inside your organizations. And of course, I'm sure most of you have been hearing about it enough on different through different news sources that insider attacks have been on the rise in the last few years and are costing organizations tons and tons of money every year because of not having the right technology and tools in place. And what happens when an organization is in that situation is that it results in heavy financial penalties due to non-compliance. So you as an administrator, you have many things to worry about when it comes to keeping internal threats under check, right? Because like I said, you may often keep hearing about insider attacks in different tech news websites, which may worry you as an administrator to think if you and your enterprise are secure. And your management even might want to know if your enterprise is actually secure from such internal threats. And these threats, remember, maybe because of a malicious insider, that is someone who has gone rogue for whatever reason, or it could be due to a theft of a privileged user's credentials. And that's really scary because you know the power as an administrator of a privileged user account, which is why hackers often try to get hold of those credentials to breach your network. Now, the other scenario of an insider attack is, of course, you could have a naive insider, right? Someone who's technically naive, maybe, who performed an action without knowing that they were creating a loophole in the security system. And if this change was unchecked, it could well lead to a potential attack, right? Because if a change created a loophole, that could be exploited by an attacker for an attack. So, in today's webinar, we will talk about important ideas of auditing Active Directory and how our tool from Manage Engine, ADAudit Plus, can help you easily solve whatever problems we're going to discuss today. Now, your organization might be using Active Directory, which is why you're probably here today, of course, because we've got a really good response with today's webinar's registrations. And I often find that, in fact, when it comes to a topic like auditing Active Directory, administrators suddenly are much more interested and concerned about a topic like this. And I think Active Directory is, of course, extremely important, and all of you heavily rely upon it for your day-to-day functioning of your internal IT. But just as Active Directory is great, there is also a lot of information that people really don't know about properly using, managing, and most importantly, in the context of today's webinar, auditing Active Directory, right? Because, well, for starters, there are modifications made to Windows Server that may have happened without you knowing. Because remember, obviously, it isn't something as big as an OS update where a huge deal is made over a particular feature. And because of that, often AD administrators aren't aware, especially about some of the auditing features of Active Directory. And if you aren't able to keep track of changes being made in Active Directory, you aren't going to know if something is potentially creating a security loophole. And this could pave the way for a dangerous attack. So let's get started. And now think about this for a moment. Think about this for a moment. These questions that you see on the screen, right? Do you have access, easy access to important Active Directory audit information? Now, I want to start off by asking these questions because this is a really good way to get started with securing not just Active Directory, but any piece of your IT infrastructure. Because taking stock of your security systems in place helps you understand what is lacking perhaps, and also what you need to do in order to tighten your security. So the first question that you need to answer is, do you have easy access to important Active Directory audit information? Ponder about this for a moment. How much information about activity on Active Directory do you have easy access to? Do you know all about the critical changes happening on Active Directory? So if, say, today a user had a group membership change to a group with elevated privileges, would you know that instantly? Would you know that in real time is the question. It is a critical change, of course, and one that can potentially compromise your security. So would you have been able to detect this immediately? Can you tell me with confidence that if such a dangerous change or any other such change, critical changes really, that happens to your Active Directory objects, would you know that instantly? So, and do you struggle with reporting information for compliance audits? And other things also, for example, take something like logon activity. Do you have the information, say, about the top users who have failed logons along with the reason for the failed logon? Things like this. I encourage you to think about this and tell us on the live chat how you feel about auditing Active Directory. Do you have control with whatever current technology that you have in place, or do you feel that something is lacking? You can engage with us on the live chat. We've got our senior product specialist, Ram Ganesh, who's here to answer any of your concerns about auditing Active Directory. So you can ask us if you can relate to these questions, and if you feel something is lacking from the current tools that you have, you can engage with a discussion with our product expert and look at a solution for sort of filling the blanks and having the right tool to solve your requirement. Now, one of the reasons though that we stress on auditing Active Directory is because internal attacks can become really difficult to handle. It can take months. Can you believe it? It can take months to discover that your security was compromised. So imagine how much damage and information the attacker can get during that time. I'm sure you realize that it is absolutely terrifying, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. So I encourage you to interact with us on the live chat and truthfully answer these questions, because this will help you evaluate your security posture better. And I can even share some of the answers so that all of the attendees today can benefit. So this is one of my favorite slides that I like sharing in almost any of my presentations that deal with internal threats. And you might have come across this quote from the Spider-Man movies, which is, "With great power comes great responsibility." And this is so relevant to the life of administrators. So can you relate to this? With great power comes great responsibility. So say if someone gets access to your domain admin account through whatever attack it may be. It could be something as simple as a phishing attack, or it could be a brute force attack, but let's not get into that today. The point is, if someone gets control of your domain admin account, what power do you think they get? Right? If someone gets access to your domain admin account, they will get complete control over your Active Directory. And of course, Active Directory is the core of your internal IT. And with the power of a domain admin, a person, that is the attacker, can play around with all your users and groups, with all your workstations, with all your GPU settings, with all your critical servers, and potentially can take down your entire IT infrastructure. So now, even if we weren't earlier on the same page, now I'm sure I have your attention, and you obviously must be very concerned about real-time auditing of Active Directory. So what you need to be able to do is detect attacks at an early stage in order to mitigate them quickly. And the only way you can do that, I said, is with real-time auditing of events and being alerted for threats to your security. And, and in this context, you need to audit changes to Active Directory in order to ensure security. So when we talk about changes, this could be something like moving users to another group, that is the group membership changing, and things like that. You need to track things like that because you need to track all the important changes being made to your Active Directory objects, be it your users, groups, computers, your group policy, your password policy, everything. This is where what we call the four vital W's comes into the picture, right? The four W's that you need to know, which is who made the change, which object was changed, when was the change made, what the new value is, and what the old value was. Which is of course where you can compare the change made to the object. You need to know who changed the value. You need to know what the value is now versus what the value was before the change. When was the change made as well? Because these 4 vital W's essentially help you answer any question about what is going on in your own AD infrastructure. So whether it is an internal requirement that you have for an internal audit, or more often than not, if an auditor comes for a compliance regulation, an external auditor comes and asks you information, it is inevitably going to be one of the 4 vital W's. So you need to know who made a change to which object and when was the change made and what the change was essentially. These are the 4 vital W's that I keep stressing on that you need to stay on top of in order to know exactly what is going on in your Active Directory infrastructure. Right? So this is what we are trying to achieve essentially. I've told you, yes, internal threats are a problem. And obviously one of the key concerns when it comes to dealing with internal threats is securing your Active Directory, for which you need real-time auditing. And essentially what you need to audit are the 4 vital W's. As in, you need to be in a position to answer these questions. But before we exactly jump into a tool and provide a solution to this problem, we first need to look at the prerequisites to auditing. So I understand that we do have some of our existing ADAudit Plus customers as well joining in today. So this bit for the next 2 minutes might be a little bit something that you already know, but I still feel it's an important concept to cover in the context of Active Directory auditing. Right? We need to look at the prerequisites to auditing. That is what you need to know and configure before you can start leveraging the power of auditing. You need to understand the concept of auditing and more specifically, the concept of advanced auditing and the configuration of the advanced auditing policy. Now, this is something that is available from Windows Server 2008 R2 onwards, which gives you the option of a granular configuration of auditing. Now remember by default, remember that auditing isn't configured. And if you want to track a particular event, you need to configure auditing on the system to tell the system that it needs to generate log entries for the specified events. But if you are using Windows Server 2003, I don't know how many of you today might still be using Windows Server 2003. But if you are, then unfortunately, you wouldn't have this really good feature of advanced auditing that Microsoft brought in. So in the old auditing policy settings before 2008, you could configure, say, things like account management, or say something, you could configure directory service access. You could turn on auditing for these, but you wouldn't get granular control. But with the advent of the advanced audit policy configuration, you get that granular control and you can go into account management and into directory service access and configure, that is, turn on the auditing for the specific kinds of events that interest you, right? So the next thing you need to do after configuring the advanced audit policy on your domain controller is go to your Active Directory users and computers and configure what is known as the SACL. And in the properties of the object, you can specify exactly what you need to track. So you need to go to your Windows Server and configure the advanced auditing configuration, and then go to your Active Directory users and computers and configure the SACL settings. And then you have essentially told the system what it needs to track. That is, what are the events it needs to generate a security log for. And after these two configurations, you will start getting the audit data, the audit trail, if you like, into your security log. Now, I don't want to spend too much time actually showing you these configurations because this information is available online, and I'm sure a lot of you are already aware of this. We also do online workshop series for customers of ADAudit Plus, where we actually show these setup and configurations. So you could join in for that as well if you need. But if you have any questions though about the configurations of the audit policy and the SACL, you can of course ask us during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So now that I've covered the two fundamental auditing concepts, at this stage, once you've configured this, you are in a position where the important security events are being tracked and are going into the security log. But, however, coming to the need of having a special tool, that is a real-time auditing tool for Active Directory, right? Yes, Microsoft did a great job revamping their auditing with Windows Server 2008 R2, but they did bring the granular advanced auditing feature, yes, but your job doesn't end after simply configuring advanced auditing and the SACL. You can't just stop with that because you will need to still view and track the audit data. And here is where Microsoft fails short. They come short in this aspect. Yes, you can configure the audit policy, but Microsoft fails you when you need to view and track the audit data efficiently. Yes, they give you Event Viewer to view the security log, which can be used to track security events of interest. But as an administrator, if you ever try to use Event Viewer to audit your log data and track important events, that is where you yourself will realize that the problem arises for you guys. Because Event Viewer itself has its own limitations. To start off with, there's a limitation on the security log size, after which the data gets overwritten. So you may be missing out important events which could be critical Active Directory changes. And each domain controller will have its own security log. So you have the additional challenge of also bringing all the log data together or centralizing all the data. And most importantly, it is very, very difficult to analyze events using Event Viewer without an additional tool because you will struggle to run reports and easily view the audit trail information that you are looking for. So in a particular context, if you need some particular information, you will be struggling if you're just relying on Microsoft's native tools. And I'm sure you have used Event Viewer for something definitely because all of your administrators, you've all definitely used Event Viewer for something. So you would know how difficult it is to rely upon it to track different things. And if you want to say generate a report about something to show to your auditor, if your auditor is demanding a report for something happening in your Active Directory, it is going to get really challenging to do that with just Microsoft's native tools. In fact, I actually encourage a lot of our potential customers to try and do these tasks without a special tool. And this will actually help you understand the many roadblocks and the shortcomings and difficulties that you would face using just Event Viewer. So try to track all this in real time. I'm going to show you a few things in a few minutes of our tool, but I would almost challenge you to try and track in real time, say each time a user or groups gets created or deleted, when policies are changed, when your admin group changes its membership. Try doing all this and try pulling out information for your auditors with just Event Viewer. It is going to result in a horrible headache for you. And maybe you've already tried and faced these problems, which is why you're probably evaluating our tool. So you need a special tool to help you to do Active Directory auditing in real time. So let us look at our tool ADAudit Plus and look at what it can do for you. So ADAudit Plus has got you covered for real-time auditing of Active Directory. It's a top-notch real-time auditing and alerting tool and a must-have really for any Active Directory administrator and security professional alike. And I assure you, by just setting it up, which itself is very easy, and starting to use it, you will immediately realize how much in-depth audit information about Active Directory you can get at your fingertips. Because every single important event in Active Directory can be tracked in real time with ADAudit Plus, and you can easily configure real-time alerts for them. You can track things like unauthorized logons, privileged user activity, who changed your GPO configurations, and really track a whole bunch of other critical audit information as well. Because like we have been discussing, these kinds of Active Directory changes directly impact your security and can potentially create gaps or loopholes in your security system. So let me jump into our tool to show you more, along with how you can use this tool to solve your Active Directory auditing problems. Right, so I'm just going to jump into our tool, and this, what you see, the first thing you will see once you log on to ADAudit Plus is the dashboard view. So in case any of you have already installed a free trial version of our tool, I'd encourage you to also have a look at the tool to get an idea of the different things you can get out of the tool. And in case you haven't yet set up the tool on your system, you can visit this URL that you can see on my screen, demo.adauditplus.com, and log in as an administrator. And you can see a bunch of data that is simulated, and that'll give you a great idea as to what are the things you can achieve, and sort of get a look and feel of how the tool can help you. So in case you don't have the setup, you can of course just visit demo.adauditplus.com and sort of just take a look of the different things that is there as well. Right, so anyway, coming back to our tool, the first thing you will see is the dashboard view. This gives you an instant overview and clarity on all the important stuff going on in your Active Directory at first glance. Remember, the solution aggregates data from all of its domain controllers, and what you get to see in the dashboard view is essentially a centralized and comprehensive set of information in a single console. So important things like the user logon failures or account management changes, like accounts being modified and deleted, other important information like the user accounts that have been locked out. You can check all of this. You can check all of this at a single glance in ADAudit Plus to get a clear idea of what is going on in your Active Directory environment. Now, let me show you more specifically outside of the dashboard view. Let me show you the many categories of reports that you can get access to. So let me just jump to the reports tab of our tool. And in fact, I want you to have a look at this even at the end of the webinar in your installation and spend some time on it to understand what all information you can get in the different reports. Because you might have struggled in the past for obtaining some audit information about something, and you may well be pleasantly surprised after looking at the reports that we give that, hey, this tool does exactly what I need. I get the report and alert for what I'm looking for. So you have this whole bunch of categories of reports right here, and within each of these categories you have many reports that you can track specific things that you need for your requirement. And what the best part about these reports is that they are predefined. And what this means is that you don't need any additional configuration to run these reports or anything of that sort. No, you get all of this data out of the box with ADAudit Plus. So that means once you configure the advanced audit policy and the SACL and configure your domain controller with ADAudit Plus, every information that you see with the reports is something you get out of the box with ADAudit Plus. That makes things pretty neat and easy for you, right? So coming back to the reports though, the first two categories of reports you see are the user logon and the local logon log-off reports. So in fact, on my other tab where I have the demo.adauditplus.com setup running, so I just already simulated the logon failures report right here to sort of show you how easily, if you want to see something such as the top user logon failures in your Active Directory, you can get that instantly, right? Because logon log-off activity is, of course, something that is very important to track. And this audit information is important for different compliance regulations and maybe even for your internal ID policies. So we give two categories of reports which give a lot of data for specifically to tracking logon, log-off activity. But we can go one step further for logon activity with what we call as aggregate reports, which you see right here. With this, you can easily view and pull out information. Let me just maybe shift to my other setup where I have this data populated, right? So with the aggregate reports, you can take something like you can easily pull out and view information for a longer time frame of events and do an easy drill down of in-depth details for the events. So in the case of account logons, you can easily see all the logon successes and failures at a single glance. I can click on the logon failures and I can immediately see who are the users causing these logon failures. And what I can see here is the reason for the fail logon, whether it's a bad username or password expiry or other reasons. You can check this either based on the name of the machine or based on the reason. Right? So do you see how easy it is? I've just taken a simple example of logon, log-off auditing to start with because this is something that that every administrator can relate to instantly. So do you see how easy it becomes to track things like logon activity and easily pull out the information that you need, whether it is for an internal requirement or for your auditors? Right. But coming back to the report categories though. Now let us look at, say, under the reports, let us look at under account management, all AD changes, right? So here is where you can see what we talked about earlier in the presentation. If you can relate to it from a few slides earlier, who, where, when, and what. I'm showing you this now because I want to show you how easy it is for you to access information that you are looking for and pull it out from the tool efficiently. So in the case of this report where I'm able to see all the AD changes that have occurred, maybe I want to just look at a particular set of things. So maybe I want to just look at only the So maybe I want to just look at only group policy containers, or maybe I just want to look at the action is modified. If I do that, I can instantly query this information and pull this information out of the tool with ease. So I can very easily just change the period that I'm looking for, maybe give a custom range. I'm looking at maybe say from the 1st of September to the 12th of October, and I can get instantly the data of who, where, when, and what. And not only can I get this information instantly with just a couple of clicks, but I can also add more columns to what you see here. So you have this option called add or remove columns. Of course, okay, in this case, we have exhausted all the columns, but you can customize for other reports what are the columns that you'd like to see for that particular report. We allow you to customize this information as per your requirement. So you can get specific information for a specific time frame. So you want to know all the users that were modified within this particular time frame. You can easily set that up in a couple of clicks and get that data out of the tool instantly. You've also got a neat export as option, right, that you see on the screen right here, that lets you easily get the report as a PDF or a CSV file. And this is again where having a tool like ADAudit Plus helps you, as opposed to doing the same thing using a PowerShell approach, right? Because that is going to be incredibly painful each time you want to pull out some information. But with a tool like ADAudit Plus, you can get the information easily in a matter of clicks. Let's just look at a couple of other reports. Let us look at something else. Maybe under user management, you can track information such as the recently created users in the last 30 days. You can find out who created the user. You can see the important attributes for maybe the username, the SAM account name, the caller username, the domain controller, things like that. So here's where I said in the previous report that you can add more columns, because by default, we give a bunch of things that you see right here. We give a bunch of informations in the columns for the report, but we also have more than what you just see on the screen. So you might want something specifically, maybe you want the SID, or you want any of these information that you see right here. So you can have more information appended to the report as you feel necessary. So this, of course, you've got a bunch of reports here with regards to the user management. You can track things like the recently created, deleted, enabled users, disabled users, and so on. And you can also track the recently logged out users, which again is very important. So for a particular time frame, I can instantly see the top logged out users. So things like this, and it's an account lockout analyzer. You can find out the reason for the account lockout as well with the tool. So we've got a huge bunch of categories of reports: group management, computer management, advanced GPO reports, DNS changes, a bunch of things. We've got very crucial reports called profile-based reports that might be useful for you. So I would encourage you to really, add, either if you've already got an installation right now or at the end of the webinar, to look at the different reports that are available for you out of the box with ADAudit Plus, so that you understand the full scope of the tool. So I've shown you a few reports, but let us look at something else, a use case of tracking privileged user access. So let us take this report called Administrative User Actions under Account Management. Now, you know, administrators can make critical changes to your Active Directory infrastructure. So I can view in this report for a particular admin who is a privileged user, the actions or modifications that they have made to Active Directory. So you can see I've got, for a particular administrator, which I can choose, I can see all the users modified, the computers modified, the groups modified, the OUs and the GPOs as well. All this information is given to me really neatly, right? So I know who made what changes, when, and which object was changed. All this information is comprehensively given to me, so that in case I am asked to show this to any auditor or for an internal requirement, I can do that. But now, I've said these reports are great. You get a lot of information. But now let me show you the other powerful feature of ADAudit Plus, apart from the reports, which of course is the real-time alerts. Because like I said, yes, you get these reports, you can show this information, you can pull out, extract information that you're looking for in a particular situation. But you need alerts for critical security configurations and changes made in Active Directory. So it's really easy to set up alerts for critical changes with our tool, because essentially whatever report that you've seen, that you see on the left hand side, we've got about 200 predefined reports. We've got corresponding alerts for those reports. So you can associate a report with an alert, meaning each time that particular event occurs, you will be notified in real time that it happened, right? Because yes, the reports, some of the events might be something that you can check once in a way, say once in a week or once in 10 days, to ensure that everything is proper by going through one of the reports. But some events, you need real-time intelligence that it has happened. You need a real-time alert for certain critical changes in Active Directory. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to set up an alert. So I'm just jumping onto the alerts tab of the tool and going to click on new alert profile, which essentially is where I create an alert and mention the criteria for the triggering of the alert. So it's really easy to set this up. Let me just show you how to do that. I'm just going to give a name for the alert, maybe something like escalation of privilege, and some description. I'm just gonna leave that for now. I'm going to choose the severity for the alert, which of course is going to be critical in this case, because something like an escalation of privilege is something that you want to be alerted for in real time. And then I need to choose for what I need the alert for. So what we call report profiles are essentially all the report categories that you saw back in the reports tab. Now I can choose any category of the reports. Maybe in this case, I'm going to choose group modification, and I'm going to select modified admin groups and modified security groups, because I want alerts for that. I'm associating alerts for these particular report profiles, because not only do you want to be in a situation where you can go and view this audit data as a report, but for certain events, you would want to get alerted in real time. So I'm just choosing modified admin groups and modified security groups. I can just choose an alert message, which I can type out, which is what I'll see when I get the alert. And we allow you to do an advanced configuration to set up the alert. So you can, if I click on advanced configuration, I've got things like the threshold for the alerts. I've got user-based alerts. So here I can select, say, I can select user-based alerts, and I can choose a service account. So I'm just going to select a couple of users at random. So I'm just, yeah, right. So I'm going to select a couple of users at random here. So if any of these specified users modified the specified group, I've chosen modified admin groups and modified security groups. When this happens, you can get a real-time alert. I've also got alerts. I can tweak the alert profile by configuring business hours or working hours, and any other filter really that you can set up in the alert profile to reduce the alert noise and be alerted only for the events that truly concern you. That is only for the events that are a threat to security. So you can get a real-time alert for this either as an email, you can get an email notification, or an SMS, or you can execute a script upon the alert being triggered so that you can proactively mitigate the attack. So upon this particular alert criteria being met, you can execute a custom script to curb the attack as well. So that is an option, a robust alert profile configuration that we give to you. So if you have got all the alerts correctly set up, and you've seen it's very easy to do that with ADAudit Plus, you can sit back and wait and see if any alert got triggered, and then go and see what happened. So for all the reports of ADAudit Plus, you can associate real-time alerts. So this way, you can easily meet your compliance mandates as well, right? So we in fact give a pre-packaged templates for different compliances, which you can see. Let me just go back to the tool. So you can, I'm going to just show you for different compliances. We've got a dedicated section under the reports where we've neatly categorized different reports for compliance. So you can see we've got SOX compliance, HIPAA, PCI DSS, and for all these compliances, we give a bunch of predefined reports so that you can very easily meet your compliance mandates. You can easily pull out information that is important for meeting these compliance mandates and sort of show your auditors the security program that you have in place in order to meet that particular compliance mandate. So we are giving these prepackaged templates for different compliances, and all this information is made available for you to extract and give to your auditors and give your auditors the information that they have asked for. And this is essentially what we are trying to achieve with the tool. We know that there are challenges, the importance of Active Directory auditing. We know that we can't depend upon just the native Windows tools. We know that there is a need for a real-time cutting-edge Active Directory auditing and alerting tool, which is where ADAudit Plus comes in. And we've seen what exactly we can do with ADAudit Plus. You get a bunch of predefined reports, and you can associate real-time alerts for each of these reports so that you are alerted for when any critical change happens to your Active Directory, and you are in a position to answer the 4 vital W's. Who made the change? When was the change made? Which object was changed? And what the new value is compared to the old value of the object. So I've just probably taken a few minutes more than the promised 40 minutes of the webinar. So wanted to really try to cover a bunch of different information that is important in the context of auditing Active Directory. So I hope you found this session useful. Please take a moment at the end of the webinar to give us your feedback so that we know how we can tweak the presentation agenda for future webinars. And also, like I said, we are now available on the live chat to answer any of your questions that you had with regards to today's webinar and also with regards to what our product ADAudit Plus can do for you. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today and taking time off from your busy schedules. And I hope you have a great day ahead.